call the planning and zoning meeting to order. Will everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. John Matthews.
Here.
Terry Bukowski.
Here.
Mark Denny.
Here.
Alex DeMauro.
Here.
Wolf Smith.
Here.
Rocky Hempel.
Here.
Jeanette Holloman.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
And I'm present, Steve Rosenthal. There are 9 members present. Do I have a motion on last month's minutes?
Move for approval. Second.
I have approval on the floor and second on the minutes. Is there any discussion? I have a couple, about 3 things that I noticed on here. On page 3, on case number DEV 19-114, it doesn't say that it was seconded and by who. The motion was made and doesn't say who seconded, that it even was seconded or by who it was seconded.
I can look at the notes.
Okay. And then on page 5, the same thing on case number DEV 125. Same thing. It wasn't mentioned that it was seconded and who, but it was seconded by.
Okay.
And then later on 5, on case number DEV 19-125, it doesn't say who made the motion
Okay.
on that one, so. Otherwise, I didn't see anything else.
Actually, I think Mark made that motion, didn't you, Mark?
I think
Oh,
Rocky made it.
I think Rocky made it.
Rocky made it, and later on, it did say that Rocky amended his motion, that commission.
I just made an assumption.
Yeah, it said that I didn't.
Yeah, that you made it.
Should have been noted.
But I don't know who seconded those other 2.
Oh,
Probably did
I
one
have
of
your
them.
worksheet.
You have my worksheet?
Uh-huh, yep.
All right. All right. You accept those 2 changes?
Concur.
As do I.
Okay. And any other discussion? Jeanette Holloman?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 8 to 1 abstaining. Secretary report?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. First, I would like to apologize for those minutes. Ms. Sloop was on vacation, and it was my responsibility to make sure those were correct, and I clearly
I
failed.
know who to blame.
So I'm sorry about
I was
that. I know. Should probably be demoted. So we have one item that was going to be heard tonight on the consent agenda. That is Winchester Ridge. I would like to pull that off. The diff calculation on that was incorrect. There's no issues with it or anything, but I want to make sure that we have it on the record that the diff was changed in the condition. So we'll pull that off of the consent agenda. The other case on the consent agenda will be heard next month, hopefully. We also have a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting this evening, so we will need 7 members to stick around. We also have a couple of work sessions that have been scheduled. The first is for January 22nd. That is a work session for the County Comprehensive Plan. That'll be 5:30 right here. And then Wednesday, February 5th is a work session, and that's to discuss changes to the table of uses. That's one of the work sessions that you all have requested that we get.
Are they both going to be up here or
No.
downstairs?
I think we'll do it up here. I'll let you know for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, I think up here it's easier, I think, to do it,
Okay.
unless
And
you all would like.
Are those open to the public too, aren't they?
Work sessions are open to the public, but they are not subject to public comment, and I'll let
Correct. They
Mr.
can listen.
Harris.
That's correct?
They're open to the public, it's at your discretion whether public input would be allowed.
Okay. All right.
That is all that I have.
So a motion on the agenda would, we would change the case number DV 19, 132 and 133 to on the agenda.
Correct, on the regular agenda.
All right. And I will entertain a motion on the agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the agenda. with the modifications.
A second?
Take Jeanette.
I'll take Jeanette's. I have a motion on the floor, to you will go, Bobby.
I know.
Motion on the floor to approve the agenda with the change on moving Winchester Ridge to the regular agenda. Any discussion? Roll call vote, John Matthews.
Yes.
Jerry Bukowski.
Yes.
Mark Denny.
Yes.
Alex Demaro.
Yes.
Wolf Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holloman.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 9-0. And we will start on then with, oh, is there any decorations? Anybody? Okay. So case number DEV 19-132-133, consideration preliminary and final plat for Winchester Ridge, an 8-lot plat on a tract of land in the west half of the southwest quarter, section 11, township 10, range 20 east of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 25078 Fairmont Road, preceded by Herring Survey Company. This is not a public hearing item. Staff report.
Commissioners, this is case number DEV 19-132 and 133. This is an 8-lot plat for Winchester Ridge. There are no issues with this. Like I said, this was obviously on the consent agenda. The only reason that we are pulling it off is you all have an email before you. The original condition number 2 had a development impact fee of over $37,000. That is incorrect. The diff is $9,528.29. That is the only reason that we pulled it off. Again, I just wanted to make sure that that was on the record, that the diff was being changed. We got that recalculation after the packets had already gone out. Staff, obviously, the growth boundary, it's determined to be a secondary growth boundary. Secondary growth boundaries have certain requirements. Subdivisions also have certain requirements. Those are in our zoning and subdivision regulations and have been in our zoning and subdivision regulations for quite some time. As such, according to Article 55.10, sidewalks are required at the planning commissioner's discretion. You can require hard paved sidewalks, you can require sidewalks to a reduced standard, such as a well-gravelled pathway. In lieu of sidewalks, you can require that the street be widened so that vehicle and bicycle walking traffic can get by. That is a recommendation of staff in lieu of sidewalks. Of course, this is completely up to the planning commission, but instead of a 24-foot road, a 30-foot road, wide road, in order to allow for the safe passage of people who we know on these sorts of subdivisions. This cul-de-sac is over a quarter mile long. People will definitely be out there walking, riding their bike, and such. Furthermore, street lighting is also required. Fire hydrants are required and can be supported by the water district. Staff is certainly recommending fire hydrants be installed in this subdivision. And the recommendation of staff is for the approval of this subdivision, again, subject to the road being widened, or at the planning commission's discretion, sidewalks instead of widening the road. The applicant is here and will answer any questions that you may have as well. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, staff?
I got a couple. Was there any benefit to them or non-beneficial thing to us for these being done separately? Because phase one was already pushed through. This is phase 2. I didn't know if there was any negative impact.
No, it's common in a larger lot subdivision like this that it comes through in separate phases.
Okay. And 2, I think before all the people got on, there was another subdivision, maybe north of Baser, that had streetlights and everything. I didn't know if that was you guys had requested streetlights and sidewalks and stuff. I didn't know if that's gonna be a help to everybody, or if
it's a Class A or Class B subdivision within a growth boundary, those are the requirements that are in the zoning and subdivision regulations.
I just didn't know if the board was gonna be the same for everybody, since you said it was up to.
At your discretion, the sidewalks or at the board's discretion, you can require hard paved sidewalks, gravel sidewalk, asphalt sidewalk, or the widening of the road. So that is at the planning commission's discretion, in the case of a Class B subdivision in the secondary urban growth area.
Do you guys remember that case?
Yeah, I remember. I think it was. we
I
had-
believe the requirements ended up being
Yeah.
waived by the Board of County Commissioners.
Oh, was it waived by them? Okay, it wasn't waived by us.
No.
I just didn't know, I just wanted to see it be the same for everybody, so
Well-
somebody's not.
Should be standard.
I don't know why they waived them, we didn't waive them, so, why they waived them, I couldn't tell you.
Was that Lansing's urban growth area?
Correct.
Yeah, I
That was
remember.
Lansing.
Yeah, it was.
It was a little smaller one than this
Yeah.
one, though, wasn't it?
It was fewer lots,
A lot fewer lots, yeah.
a few fewer lots, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was only one phase, and there was only, yeah. Yeah. Any questions of staff?
I do. Okay, Crystal, you know what my question is.
Yes.
How do we get around Article 50, Section 20, Paragraph 4, that says that you can have septic tank, basically says you can have septic tanks if the lots, the majority of the lots, are greater than 2.5 acres, and these are showing, and matter of fact, the next one is the same way with the next case that we're going to hear, to where they're 2.5 acres.
Commissioner, you are correct. Our regulations say greater than 2.5 acres, subject to the following procedure. The zoning district is 2.5 acres, the state requirement is 2.5 acres. I think there's a text amendment in our future that says a minimum of 2.5 acres.
I agree.
That's what we've been
We
approving.
have done this for
Yeah.
a very long time.
We probably need to change the wording, I agree,
Yes.
as you and I discussed. However, this board, at the last meeting, would not waive one of the requirements. The requirement was for noise. This one is for poop. Do we allow poop to be handled differently than we do noise? And that's just my point. I mean, I'm for development. But if we're doing stuff by the letter of the law, then we've got an issue here. That's all I'm saying. We need to be
You have to
consistent.
vote, yeah, and we
Yeah.
consistently approve these, so.
Well, just-
yes, we're going to go by consistency. We approved them if they were 2.5 acres.
If we've been wrong consistently, then we need to consider how we're going to do business. That's all I'm saying.
I'll be asking for a motion here pretty soon, so you need
Okay.
to put in there what, how you want to do it. how you
I mean,
want to
Crystal
do
and I are on board. I get it. I understand it. And it's the way it's always been done.
it. No.
That's the way it's always been done. It's not a good
That's
answer
how we
to
find
me.
out about those loopholes, though, when we have somebody read them that we probably read them many a times, and we
Yep.
didn't realize it
Exactly.
said more.
Yeah.
I thought it was,
Well, I
we
would.
always figured 2.5 or greater. I
Right.
didn't figure it was greater than
Correct.
2.5.
Yeah.
So anyway, but your motion can reflect that, please. Please do, don't hesitate to do what you feel is right. Any other questions of staff?
I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Well, that's what we're going to do right
Okay,
now.
good. Okay, I didn't know if we
The
was or
applicant,
not.
please come forward.
Had a couple things I want to address.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth Street. Staff is in support of it, I'm in support of it, so. Though we did change the layout, so it does come in different from your preliminary, and Crystal said it stays in conformance or same intent. We did submit a formal request for exemption from streetlights, sidewalks, and shoulders. That has been submitted, and we understand that maybe this commission can approve all of those exemptions. But I just want to let you know that those have been asked for, and the previous one, which was Van Fleet's Pride Estates, was the first one to come through in modern times, and it was all waived by the board.
So everything, streetlights, sidewalks,
Shoulders were never talked about at that time.
The shoulders are instead of
Set up,
sidewalks,
correct,
right?
yes.
I mean, I would prefer sidewalks to shoulders, but I
regulation
still think
states
your
that, but-
people walking are in harm's way by walking on the road no matter what, and bicycles and everything, but,
You're in a
Whatever.
cul-de-sac, though. That's
you're in a cul-de-sac, yeah, you're not
Which
getting
makes
a
a
lot of
difference,
homes.
yeah.
lot of
And this
traffic on
commission
it.
waived the sidewalks, but
Yeah.
for some reason, the shoulders weren't discussed at that time, I don't.
Either or.
Well, the roads reflect that, don't they? They're 60 foot, is that reflecting?
Right away of 60 feet.
Oh,
The
right,
built
the road
road
isn't,
is
oh, okay.
correct,
So
12 foot
it isn't,
length,
so we would need one of the two then.
according to the regulations,
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Right, and to Terry, to address your comment, I would say 99% of the lots that I create at 2.5 acres are 2.5, at least 0.5. The square footage isn't shown on the face of that survey, but I don't make them right at 2.5 acres exactly. I don't like that. I like to have a little leeway in there in case a property line in the future, there is a discrepancy and they lose some ground to a neighbor or anything. So they are greater than 2.5 acres. It just doesn't state that on the face of the survey.
I always thought you were more accurate than that, Joe. Well, here was my second question on this. This was originally for 14 lots, and now it's went to 16. If it went back to 14, it'd be easy to get those over 2.5.
Absolutely.
Just as a point.
Yeah, 12 to 14 is what it went. 12 lots to 14 lots, though, right? I can't remember.
No, it went from 14 to 16. So it has added 2 lots in this phase.
No, 12 to 14.
12 to 14. Okay. So we increased it by 2 lots, yes.
Roger.
Yeah. So, yes, and you're correct. We could have made them a little larger, but the requirement is 2.5 acres, minimum or greater, I guess. They're all greater, and meets KDHE, meets planning and zoning. And it is as submitted, just so there's no discussion, or no confusion, we did remove the no-build zone on this plat.
And why is that? That was for
The-
future road, wasn't
The
it?
future road was placed, and we talked about it when the preliminary was approved. The future road was shown to meet the current regulation of the 700-foot cul-de-sac restriction. It was submitted with that, and if you show a future road, you're showing that you're going to extend it. They removed that restriction, said you can make your cul-de-sac, because there's no limits on the cul-de-sac now, so that was removed.
But
And
isn't
I-
wise planning to allow for future roads in case the other property develops?
What is behind
In
this?
some cases,
And I think this would
Not
be
in all
one of those
cases.
cases, because it is close to Baser.
Connectus.
It could,
it is on the south, actually, we could talk about the growth district of Baser a little bit. It's south of I-70, and so much discussion has been had that Baser
Yeah.
really shouldn't be south of I-70, they're never gonna sewer it. They're not gonna put a sewer line underneath there, so.
correct, right.
This should actually be out of, it shouldn't be a Class B subdivision, if we're looking at it that way. The discussion of Baser putting sewer under I-70 is just not gonna happen. So, she supports it as submitted, and I'm here for any other questions.
So your guarantee is that those lots are over 2.5 acres?
Yes,
Your-
I
your-
guarantee.
Your professional guarantee.
I guarantee you personally.
Thanks.
Any other questions of the applicant? Crystal, does Public Works have anything about the future road, I mean, the no-build zone?
No, so as Mr. Herring stated, that was originally on there simply because we had the restriction of the cul-de-sac. In the future, if a road were to be, if that property to the north were to develop, that would be at the developer's expense to bring in a road, to condemn property, to purchase right of way, and do those sorts of things if somebody to the north wanted to develop that property. So we did not feel that the no-build zone needed to be there any longer because the regulation on the cul-de-sac changed.
Why would they want to buy property contiguous just to connect to?
If you needed to extend a road and there was property that you didn't own, you would. and
We don't
they were
like roads that,
extending-
and don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about, I'm saying if somebody to the north wanted to to develop that property and we were extending roads and such, there's a process in place for that. We don't necessarily need to be setting aside no-build zones on this development for something that may happen in the future when this is just it's a dead-end street into this single development.
But it wouldn't be a new house.
We're not talking about, sorry, I should not have said condemning. No. There's a process in place for the extension of roads. If somebody wanted to buy somebody's piece of property and build a road through it, that's their right to do that, if they want to sell their property.
Any other questions of the applicant?
Does the commission want to address the lights and the shoulders and sidewalks?
Will be addressed in our motion, but if you want to talk about it now, go for it.
Here's how the commission felt about it.
Well, I voiced my opinion. I think sidewalks are better than widening roads because that doesn't create safety. And if you're going to have traffic lights, they're usually, lights, not traffic lights, but lighting, they're usually between the sidewalk and the road. So I'm thinking that they both should be there, in my opinion, but that was my opinion before, too, so.
What is the requirement for lightings for this subdivision?
So
For this
our,
final plat?
Street lighting.
our,
Street
regu-
Street lighting.
so
I'm
our
sorry.
subdivision regulations, let's turn to that page, 1 second. I want to make sure I get the wording correct. It says something like required normal standards. That's what our regulations state. It is in our regulations, and as staff, I have to bring it forward. Again, that's something that the Board of County Commissioners has waived. I cannot waive that requirement. That is something certainly that you all can discuss, but
And then phase one,
no, Phase 1 is on Metro Avenue.
Yeah,
It's an existing county road.
existing county road. They're not putting in a new road. If they were making a new road, it would.
Right.
And no sidewalks were required for that.
We're not required because
Yes,
it's,
on that.
is an existing road, not a
Yeah.
new road. Correct?
Right.
Correct me if I'm misspeaking.
Correct.
I don't want to
and this is a new road going through this.
do. This is, cul-de-sac is, yes.
Automatically, the lights are required, the sidewalks required?
Because it's in the secondary urban growth area, yes.
Right.
Place of request.
Right, and if you're doing one in that area, you should be prepared to do it, as far as I'm concerned, because it is in our regulation.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions of the applicant? I would like to have David Lujan come, and I have a question for him, nothing derogatory at all. I'm just kind of curious on something, and I like your report, by the way, and it's very detailed, but I have a question on your conclusion. You says the change in land use from pasture to large residential lots with lawns, that means street in this subdivision, houses and driveways, all that considered result in a slight decrease in stormwater runoff? I always thought roads and houses and driveway increased. I noticed on Winchester, you did the report, and that's larger lots with no extra road in it, and you said it would increase there, and here it decreased. So I was just curious. I mean, I'm not questioning your thing, but it goes against my logic that I've always
No,
had
I
for
completely
years.
understand. No, it has to do with the current land use. It's pasture, mainly pasture, and a lot of woods. So the wooded area, you get more runoff from the wooded area.
You do?
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
And I don't have a copy of the report in front of me, so I don't know the values, but in the calculation, there's what's called a C value. And the C value is based off of if it's concrete, if it's a hard surface, it's 0.9. If it's a regular lawn, like my front yard, it's 0.3. So the C value varies. So a pasture has a different C value than a lawn does. So yes, like if that was a plowed field,
Yeah.
and we're changing it to lawns, you would see a dramatic decrease in runoff. Because you
Yeah.
have bare soil, now you're putting grass out there.
Okay.
So depending on what the land use is, going from a plowed farm field to 2.5 acre residential, you could drop the stormwater on.
Well, I mean, your calculations, I'm assuming they're correct, so it did, and I was just
Yeah, they're
curious on that.
Basic engineering standard.
I'm not questioning your conclusion, I'm just, to me, it's something I've always figured was the opposite. When you build more rooftops and put in more asphalt or.
But we see it a lot with city subdivisions, because you've got 10,000 square foot lots.
Right,
So you have, 20, 30 houses per acre, where out here you're doing one house per 2.5 acres. So you don't see the same effect in rural subdivisions as you do inside the city limits.
okay, all right, well, that's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
I
And
just
to-
thought I was curious to
I
see that.
wasn't planning on talking, but just to hit on the sidewalks and the streetlights.
Yeah,
As far as I know, the county has no streetlights whatsoever anywhere in it, the unincorporated area,
yeah, probably not yet.
or sidewalks.
I think
And
it's something we
like
have-
Joe mentioned, this area drains to Wolf Creek, to Wyandotte County, Bonner Springs. It shouldn't even be inside Baster's growth area.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Are there any questions or comments, commissioners?
I disagree that there should be street lights and sidewalks, because you will only see walkers on sidewalks. You will never see a cyclist on a sidewalk. And I do agree that it's out of Baser. I mean, Baser's probably never gonna be down there. And then also, if you're gonna make one person, do it, and they're in where they were, you can't make somebody else do it. Basically, you can't vary on person to person.
Well,
I agree with
go
that.
back to the kennel. We just did that,
Yeah.
That's the same thing. If you're gonna make everyone do it, you should make everyone do it, so.
So maybe we need to reevaluate then these urban districts and what we should be requiring in them.
But then we need to require just everything, because everything is being,
Either that or nothing.
No, I think if they're going to be in the city limit, probably eventually, they should go ahead and get some of that done. I don't know if they should get it all done right now, but isn't that up to the developer?
well, yeah, but it's now, I mean.
So, I mean, would it be
If they go in later, then whose cost is it
money.
then?
Yeah.
Well, I agree with that, but I
You
think
got
it'd
the
be
developer
beneficial
now.
to get some of it done, but not all.
Which part you don't want done?
I think streets should be wider everywhere, because with the amount of cyclists out there, I mean, you hear that from the sand pit all the time. People are complaining about that, and no cyclists use any sidewalks out here. And we definitely in the county have more cyclists than we do walkers.
Yeah, but on a residential street like that, I think you'll see more.
Right, this is going to
More
be
walkers than you
residential,
will.
kids riding their bikes,
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, and young kids riding their bikes would be the more, I imagine a real cyclist won't go on a cul-de-sac road and like that. So it's mostly for the people in the subdivision that would be using that road and the sidewalks. But, take more comments or questions, or I'll entertain a motion either way.
I think in a subdivision where you've got a cul-de-sac and you're gonna have young families with kids, ought to have streetlights and ought to have sidewalks.
That's my thought.
That's my thought.
It's my thought too, but again, I'll take the motion.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion. Let me make sure I got the right. I move that the proposed Rock Ridge Estates final plat as outlined in case DEV 19-137 be approved as facts, testimony, and evidence presented
and that the conditions set forth in staff report be part of the final plat.
And the staff reporting through to what?
So the staff report includes the requirement for, the right page here. Sorry, I turned to the wrong case. That's not very helpful, is it? The staff report requires the widening of the road. And that was the recommendation by staff. Certainly that
Is
recommendation.
that what you're suggesting? Okay, and then is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay, for the widen road and streetlights?
No, not for a wide road.
Okay, you want sidewalks?
Some type of sidewalk.
So
Okay.
that's the next question.
I can redo my motion, if you'd like.
We'll just spell out what isn't covered in the staff report, because they have, you have lighting in there?
Lighting,
Yeah,
think it's in there.
It's in there.
Lighting is in there?
Yes.
The only thing that isn't in there is sidewalks and/or, she has widening of the road.
Correct. So if the planning commission wishes to recommend sidewalks, we need to talk about what type of sidewalk. We have, our
I'll rescind my
options
motion.
are that they can be standard concrete, they can be approved to reduce standards such as an asphalt or well-gravelled walkway.
gravel is just gonna take a lot of maintenance.
Yeah.
Turn it into weeds real quick.
And asphalt would too, for that.
Yeah.
Concrete. Is that, no, is standard 6 foot? What is
Go ahead,
standard?
change your motion.
Yeah, I'll rescind my motion.
Oh, okay.
6 foot,
If you use sidewalks, who's to maintain those? Because like I know in our town, we have,
property owners.
Property owners will have to.
is that who enforces that? Because our sidewalks are,
The homeowners association, but the
Association
sidewalks will be,
have to take
so that
care
is
of
the advantage of the street, is that the street would be made, once it gets turned over to the county, it gets maintained by the county, it gets plowed and such by the county, which was, again, part of the thought process and staff's recommendation of widening the road.
And how about the streetlights, who maintains them?
The county
Okay.
would maintain them.
And it's on here.
so cost-wise, it'd be better on the homeowner to have a wider street.
Safer, maybe.
And it's on a cul-de-sac. I always tried to live on cul-de-sac because they were safer. You didn't need sidewalks. Wolf and I had families on cul-de-sacs.
Well, I think if you have lighting, maybe the sidewalks wouldn't be as important, but I think you need one or the other. Or really, I think you need both, but even on a cul-de-sac, I think one or the other could work.
Lights. I
Could
agree.
work, lights would be more beneficial than sidewalk, as long as the road is widened. And your staff report has the widened road and streetlights, correct?
Yes.
And the lights make it a safer neighborhood.
Okay, again, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. Mr. Chair, I move that the proposed, I gotta look which one we're, I lost it. Which one? Right. Case number DEV 19137, thanks, Alex.
Rockwood Estate Phase 2.
Rockwood Estate, Phase 2 is outlined, and that case be approved. The factors on the golden factors is set forth in the staff report is approved by the Planning Commission, is substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented, be adopted by this board, and that the condition set forth in the staff report being part of this rezoning, specifically that their road will be widened and that there will be lights. Huh? No, we're not rezoning. There's no rezoning on that.
We're approving a plat, that's not rezoning. You said rezoning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Approving the plat. Correct that, approving the plat. You got it, Stephanie. Okay. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Terry made the motion, and Jeanette seconded.
Your motion doesn't include sidewalks, right?
Correct.
Does not
Widening the road.
Widen the road.
And number
put lights.
6, that's number 6, the applicant should provide a 3-foot wide paved, I think it's supposed to be shoulder, right?
Correct.
3-foot wide paved shoulder on both lanes of the road, resulting in a 30-foot wide paved surface. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And streetlights. So everybody understands the motion and the second. And we have that on case number DEV 19-137, final plat, 14-lot plat of Rock Ridge Estate Phase 2 with staff recommendations. Is there any further discussion?
As I look at the location of this, and having lived in a cul-de-sac out in the country in a small subdivision, I agree with the lights, I think, but I don't think the road needs to be widened. I think if you have lights, that's sufficient enough that you shouldn't have to widen that road.
Would you rather have sidewalks and a wider road?
No,
Either
I
one.
would just soon have the road the way it is.
Okay. Any other discussion? Have
Is
a
there a
roll-
reason for that?
I lived in that subdivision, well, I don't know how many years I lived there, maybe 10. And the fact that we didn't have streetlights, I'm sure the road wasn't a 30-foot wide road. There was still plenty of room to walk and no more traffic that went down that road. I don't think it should be required.
Okay.
I would like to amend what I said.
Motion.
I agree with Rocky that we don't need to widen the road, but we do need the lights. And that's the way I would like my recommendation, or my proposal to be.
I'll rescind my second,
Okay.
so we can start again.
Sidewalks are out of it.
No
With the
sidewalks and
sidewalks
not widening the
Don't
road,
widen the
but
road.
streetlights.
But streetlights.
Okay. Any
Did you
further
get-
discussion?
Did you get that, Stephanie?
Everybody understand the
Rescind it.
motion? Okay, we have a roll call vote, and now this is not widening the road, but still streetlights in. Everybody understands that, okay? John Matthews,
No.
and why not?
I believe that we at least need sidewalks along with the lighting.
Okay? Terry Burkowski,
Yes.
Mark Denny.
I'm going to vote no. I think we should, I mean, I agree with what Rocky's point is here on this, especially since it's a cul-de-sac, but the regulations say we need to have one of these things. And so I think that's something that the county commissioners can waive if they so choose, which they probably will, but I think we need to follow our regulations. Like what Alex was saying, hold everybody kind of the same standard, so I'll vote no just on that issue.
Alex?
I vote no, because I think we need to have a clean board all the way across for everybody.
Wolf Smith?
I'll vote no to the same reason as John did. I like sidewalks.
Rocky Hempel?
Just refresh my memory on the motion that the fact that it's going to require lights, but it's going to require widening the road.
No,
correct?
not widening the road,
Not widening the road?
yes.
Okay,
But it is going to have lights. Lights, but not widening the road.
okay. So yes to be in favor of that, correct?
Okay. Jeanette Holdeman?
I'm going to vote no because I do think we need to standardize this.
Okay. Jeff Speen?
Yes.
And I vote no, and just because I just think we need to widen the road. I think, I like sidewalks, but I think widening the road would be sufficient. So we have 3 for, and that makes 6 against, and so that's a recommendation goes to the commissioners, is that right?
Right?
Okay. The Board of County Commissioners considered this item at 9 a.m. on the January 29, 2020 at the Leavenworth County Courthouse.
Mr. Chairman, just for my education, can the commissioners kick this back and say, hey, you guys discuss this around a little bit more?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. To get it resolved, to
And they do it.
get this thing. Okay,
And they do it, yeah.
thank you.
Okay, case number DEB 19130, consideration application of zoning.
Can I approach for clarification?
Go ahead. Yeah, what? The last item?
Still okay.
Clarification on the motion and the denial of the plat.
The motion was staff recommendations except for not widening the road. So the
But
lights
no-
were in, the motion was to not widen the road. And I think the consensus of the no's were, we felt that either we need sidewalks or the road needed to be widened. Is that correct, everybody?
Correct. There was
Yeah,
a
I don't
vote
wanna-
of 4 to
I don't want to talk
6.
for you, but that's the consensus of the no votes.
But the overall layout of the plat, other than,
Everything else was fine, yes, I think.
so,
So the
Dave, Dave, for you, if this goes to the board and they overturn it, it does not have to come back to the planning commission. Because it's a standard, not a,
It would not necessarily, but I think I'd state that that's at the discretion of the Board of County Commissioners.
their discretion. So they could approve the plat and then either enforce sidewalks, enforce shoulders, enforce streetlights, or waive it all.
They could approve the plat as submitted, they could approve the plat with amendments, they could refer the matter back to the Planning Commission for additional study and findings.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
All right. Case number DEB 19130, consideration application to rezone a parcel of land from R5 zoning district to R2.5 and a tract of land in the southwest one quarter of section 32, township 11, range 22 east of the 6 p.m. in Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 00000 Stillwell Road, request submitted by Hearing Survey. Does require a public hearing. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report.
Evening, Mr. Commissioner. This is case number DEB-19-130. This is a rezoning request on K32 Highway near 170th and Stillwell Road. The property is currently zoned as RR5, so 5-acre minimum lot size. The applicant is requesting the rezoning of this property to RR 2.5. The zoning district in the area, pull up this map really quickly. That properties to the north and to the east of it are all zoned as rural residential 2.5. The parcels to the south,
There we go.
or sorry, to the west and to the north are zoned as rural residential 5. Staff is generally supportive of this request. As I stated in my staff report, I do have concerns regarding the water being brought out. Mr. Herring has indicated that there may be a development that is happening nearby there, so it's just common sense that the water will be brought through, and that may very well be true. However, my discussions with Rural Water District 7 have indicated that there has been no talk about extending the water lines from anybody at this point in time. My concern with approving this rezoning without conversations with Water District and a feasibility study is that if we rezone this to 2.5, then we believe that we can build on 2.5-acre lots, but there's not water there, then you can't put a well on a 2.5-acre lot, so then we create an issue. Again, staff is generally supportive of this, we just feel the cart has been put before the horse maybe a little bit. But I will listen to any discussion that you may have, answer any questions that you may have. Again, our recommendation is of approval subject to a feasibility study to determine the distance the water line will need to be extended, and then agreements made.
Well, they'd have to have water, right? And there,
Correct.
I'm sure fire hydrants are required, and for subdivision, for an area that large,
Oh.
that they
Yeah.
would have to have fire hydrants also, and have enough flow in them to,
Right, so if this were to come through as a subdivision, which that is the logical next step on this, obviously, yes, those things would need to be identified, would need to be brought in. Of course, water is.
and that would be part of the subdivision planning, wouldn't it? It makes, require adequate water for serving all the houses plus fire
Correct.
hydrants.
Yes, it would be. Just again, staff's concern is that this gets rezoned, and then there is a belief that we don't have to do anything further. We can just come in and plat this and put in 2.5 acre lots, as opposed to knowing what needs to be done prior to. Again, generally supportive of their rezoning, just feel there are some loose ends that need to be tied up.
David, I mean, you look.
My observation would be that the acid test would be when any potential purchaser checks into or tries to obtain a building permit and there's no water on the lot. That obviously is going to be a problem. I would think out of an abundance of judgment, the proposing party either anticipates or has knowledge that there would be the opportunity to extend probably an 8 to 12 inch main into that area in order to provide fire flow. I'm not certain of the exact structure of Rural Water District Number 7. I don't know if that can be looped in, but I would anticipate it probably have to be.
Probably a pretty extensive project.
I think the recommendation of staff is appropriate. Obviously, there's going to need to be some action taken by Rural Water District Number 7. However, neither you nor the Board of County Commissioners control Rural Water District Number 7. They are, however, in the business of selling water. And, I would, again, hazard the supposition that if this plat is being applied for this density, that there has to be some knowledge that water would either be available very soon or in the future.
Any questions of staff?
I have one question, Crystal, and I forget the property name, but a few months ago, and I understand that there's been some change in staff, at the staff level, but we had a rezone and there was 2.5 right across the street. And the staff's recommendation was to deny it because it was spot zoning. This is very similar to me to that, but this time staff is in favor of. So can you just explain why?
Yep. So a couple of the differences on that were there was a road that clearly divided the zoning districts, and right, wrong, or indifferent, our future land use map has used section lines and roadways as delegating which zoning is where. This, as you can see, that parcel that's directly to the east and does not have a road or any noticeable feature separating it. We do have, obviously, the zoning district to the south, which there is a road. However, staff felt that this is not spot zoning. There is continuous zoning directly next to it, again, without something like a road that is very clearly defining the zones, the different sites.
Thank you.
If you remember back, we had a commercial one come by, and it was actually very similar to that, because they were on the same side. It was really just straightening out that. The recommendation from staff was to approve it. However, I don't know what we voted. Did we vote to approve it or deny it? I don't remember.
Don't remember that.
And the county commissioners, anyway, denied it. I mean, it wasn't allowed. But it was very similar to this, where it was actually touching it and actually would have straightened out the commercial zoning, because otherwise it was, actually, commercial zoning was on two sides of it.
Right.
And that. So The staff was to approve that also, so they were touching on the same side, it was commercial.
Well, the other one was touching, but it was separated by the road, and I.
The other
I remember
one,
that,
yeah,
but
the
it
one we
was
saw
touching.
a month ago or so,
Yeah, a
or
couple
2 months
months
ago,
ago,
yeah.
yeah.
That was sort of by road. This one is a little bit more obvious than that because it is not divided by a road in one area. However, the other area is divided by a road, so it's not, both sides aren't touching. There's only really one side that's
I think in
touching.
the other one, there was just one side that was touching, if I remember right, too. There wasn't two sides.
No, there was two sides that
There
were
was.
touching it. Yeah, it was the south side and the west side was touching it. They were actually going to take that corner and bring it straight to where it was one good square piece of commercial.
No, I'm talking about not on the commercial, on the
Oh, the other
residential-
one.
On the residential one.
The residential one, it was not touching any,
Yeah, on one side it was. It was
It's across the
separated by a
road.
across the road.
Right, by road though.
Yeah, across
But it
the
was
road.
touching.
Yeah, but this one is touching on one side and across the road from the
Right,
other.
right.
Because if you raise that up a little bit, you can see that across the road and across Stillwell is 2.5 also.
Correct.
But that's on the other side of the road, so you've got a road boundary in that one. So, I mean, if the other one should go, then this one should go too, by all means, because it's even
Well,
more
we
touching.
we denied that last one though.
We denied it, yes, but I think commissioners approved it,
Correct,
correct?
right.
I have some questions.
Okay,
On the legal description, it says the southwest. Isn't it the northwest corner?
That's the southwest quarter of the section 32. I'm sorry, I don't have the legal description in front of me, I
It
can't.
says a tract of land in the southwest quarter, section.
southeast.
No, southwest.
Southeast. Oh, no, 32? It is the southwest,
Yeah.
yeah, it is southwest.
Yeah, I don't know a whole
31,
lot, but
yeah.
I think that's the south.
Yeah, that's southwest.
Section 32.
Yeah. I was looking at 31, I don't know why, I just was.
Sometimes it's tricky, sometimes it throws me.
It is southwest.
Okay. I have some other questions about it. Is this property been purchased? Or
I do not know, that's not anything that we talk about in the
is that something we can
application.
ask?
It shouldn't have anything to do with our decision. but
I assume
you
it's
can
owned
ask
by
it.
somebody.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm guessing.
It either meets our requirements or it doesn't meet our requirements. It doesn't matter how long somebody owned the property.
Okay, well, then I guess I have a lot of questions for Mr. Herring. or Mr. Wood.
Well, that reserved for him. Any more questions of staff, though?
No, that was it. I guess I was just a little turned around on that.
Okay.
I have just one. Christopher Brent, this 2.5 acre thing, should there be wording from now on, just put into these greater than 2.5? So when Joe does his surveys, he shows them this 2.51. I'm not trying to be picky, I'm just, we got a regulation that says one thing.
Again, the state regulation for septic, Mr. Van Peers, did you?
Yes.
did you want to-
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, Commissioner Markowski, your point's well taken. Our regulations do have, I'll use a kind word, anomalies within them that almost defy common sense. It should read greater than 2.5 acres. One of the things we've discussed with Ms. Bob is to do a comprehensive review of all of our regulations, to pull these things out. It should be greater than 2.5 acres, 2.5 acres. So that's what I would say. Now, there have been prior approvals of 2.5 acres, and I think you acknowledge that, but we are going to look at our regulations to try to weed those out so that they don't cause perplexing problems to you folks or the citizens. But they do exist.
I assume we'll find more as we go along, but that's, and
Well, these been
April's on it, I know.
requirements that have been in there for I don't know how many years, and
Once
nobody
they
thought
changed it.
because 2.5, we all figured just 2.5, and if it was 2.5, still 1 or what, it really, to us, it was by the zoning, not necessarily by that saying greater than, so So it should say 2.5 or greater. Well, no, I guess, yeah, I guess it could say 2.5 or greater, yeah.
That's what it says. Greater than, it says greater than 2.5.
Yeah, it should say
yeah.
2.5 or greater, I guess. So. Any other questions of staff?
Yeah, I have just a comment here. I recognize under the present comprehensive plan, which is like 20 years old, that this is the agricultural preservation area. But obviously by the map, there is a lot of activity going on in that area. I'm assuming that maybe that will change with the new comprehensive plan.
I think that is an assumption that is certainly worth considering.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Okay. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, of those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, provide recognition, give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of the hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward? Who are you here?
Good evening, Commissioners. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North Fifth. Couple things that I'm going to address your comments first. One, it's like Crystal said, it's not spot zoning. The road separating it still does not make it spot zoning. The zoning goes to the section line at the description of the property. We've already been through the board with that. That is a misconception that keeps getting talked about. Water, my client is absolutely aware of water has to be brought to this property and has been in conversation with a member of Water 7. It has not been taken formally because this is not a plat application at this time. This is strictly a rezoning application, and the client has developed property before and is aware of this. So it's strictly rezoning at this time. The property to the east and to the south, both along K32, are zoned 2.5 acres. This has K32 right away, and it really doesn't seem logical why it was left out of being 2.5 acres in the first place. It just kind of skipped over it. We don't know why, but we weren't part of that plan when it was done. Whenever it was done, it was several years ago. You're right, it doesn't match the current comprehensive plan, but as you stated, it is 20 years old. The future plan may change. No guarantee on when that future comp plan will be approved. I know there's talks of hopes that it's this year. We'll see. And, other than that, we're pretty much putting everybody in a moratorium. That's what we're going to, keep holding it to. You had a question. I'm not sure what your question is. But my client is very aware of the infrastructure development process, and if the situation does evolve as it will, and water will be brought to this property, either by him or by another entity. Questions? Alex? Commissioner Alex.
I think I was basing it off the road when
Okay.
I asked that, so that's what I was under the impression of. If this is changed to 2.5, can it solely be used for houses? Nothing absolutely else?
We have a table of uses that, this would be residential, it's residential zoning. There are things that are allowed in a residential zoning district, and there are certainly many, many things that are allowed with a special use permit in a rural residential zoning district, which is what 99.89% of the county is. So that's why we bring special use permits forward.
So are schools pretty much allowed?
Schools are allowed, yes.
In every zone.
Schools, churches, government structures.
I see where you're going. Yes, the school, Baser Elementary School, is projected to go at the southeast corner of this property. That is how water will be brought to any future development of it. And with schools, the logical thing next to school are houses. In this case, most most of the time in the elementary school, you want to see high density for the entry-level homes for parents that have small children. But to get sewer to this area, not going to happen. The county won't allow temporary lagoons to go in until sewer reaches it. So to get houses next to a school in a manner that would benefit everybody in that area is to rezone it to 2.5 acres
So
for that to happen. But again, it's not a plat.
how is sewer gonna get there for the school?
How are sewers going to get there for the school? Schools are considered different, and they are allowed their independent, individual lagoon system, if I'm correct.
Commissioners, that would be permitted through the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and my understanding is the school district has been in conversations with them regarding the use of a lagoon system.
But for the school to come there, it doesn't have to be changed to 2.5 because it can.
Correct,
They can
no.
go in 5-acre zoning or anything else.
Pretty much go where they want.
They can go where they want to. So that, for the school, is not the reason to rezone this. It'd be for single-family homes on it, but I would think around the school, you would probably rather see more denser ones. And maybe sewer could be available there someday. If we don't lock it up with 2.5 acres.
Well, that someday would be quite a bit down the road, and
It could
the
be.
way
but
Baser's growing and moving schools around,
That's
probably
why
won't
we
be a
do
school by the
planning.
time sewer gets there. So, again, this is not a plat. I want to reiterate that. This is a rezone. I wasn't talking about the school in the beginning because it has nothing to do with the school. This is a rezone of Mr. Jenkins' property that matches the zoning to the east and to the south of it, not spot zoning.
But we can consider obvious issues that have been brought up related to said property, right? I'm sure that everybody's aware of what's going on.
Oh, yes, I'm sure. I mean, we could just talk about it so everybody is aware of it.
But is that something we can talk about because that is 100% related to?
I am not an agent of that school district, so I am not able to talk about it.
But can I speak to you so they can hear?
Sorry.
Commissioners, the parameters of your discussion are very broad, however, they should fit within the golden factors. That's why those factors are listed to you. They're a guidepost for you to look into various areas that you can consider. With respect to potential, the point would just be potential future land use, I would suggest that you consider that, but it would need to be within one of those 7 factors.
I think we have to be careful though on that because, again, like what Crystal was mentioning with special use permits, you can put anything that's in our table of uses in there. So for us to say, well, it could be a school, well, it could be a daycare, it could be a kennel, it could be a lot of things. We just don't know. I think the issue is, as Mr. Herring has said, it's a rezone from RR5 to RR 2.5, and we should keep our discussion to that. That's just my opinion.
Well, our table of uses shows that R2 is, single-family residences are allowed, and anything beyond that has to have a special use permit.
Right.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
So it's, my point is, it's pointless to talk about all of that stuff because we're gonna see it anyway. We don't know what it's gonna be.
If you want something different.
Well, we got the comprehensive plan, so we don't know what the comprehensive plan is gonna do for that area. It could make it 2.5 acres, it could be higher density if they figure schools coming there. Who knows what it could do at that point in time.
Well, if schools are allowed everywhere,
Yeah,
then I think it should be spoken about.
Well, we don't know that yet.
yeah.
All we're trying to do is rezone.
We're getting into weeds over stuff, it doesn't matter.
All right, anything else of the applicant? You have anything to add?
Not at this time.
We will now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor of this request, remember we have a 3-minute requirement. Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this request? We'll now hear from individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. Anyone here wishing to speak in opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Sir? Before I close it, did you want to speak?
Yes, sir.
State your name and address for the record. You got limited to 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Dave Hoagland, 15674 254th Street, Lawrence, which is about a mile north of this property.
Okay.
You've got some very interesting conversations going on with the development of this for water and for your sanitation systems and for your school districts and also fire protection in that area and for the electric service. So I'm opposed to this right now until some of these issues that you guys have brought up is very interesting and need to be addressed right now until more information is available and the feasibility, especially as he said, for the water in that area.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this request? In opposition? The public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? Or I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman. I move that the proposed rezoning outlined in case number DEV 19-130 be approved, that the findings on the golden factors as set forth in the staff report and is substantiated by the facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by this board, and that the conditions set forth in this staff report be made part of this rezoning.
Second.
Gary seconded. We have a motion on the floor with the second for case number DEV 19-130. Consideration application for rezone a parcel of land from R5 zoning district to R 2.5. Is there any further discussion?
I just have one question. So, John, on your motion, you're including staff's recommendation that it be subject to the extension of water lines.
I wasn't specific, but I'll be glad to amend my motion to include that. However,
Well, that was
that wouldn't change the rezoning, really.
No, but
It would change the plating of it.
well, no, it would, the
It's
way
a-
I read it, it would change the rezoning if it says subject to the extension of water lines, as staff recommendation. Am I interpreting that correct?
Correct, and maybe a more appropriate recommendation would have been subject to a feasibility study and with the water district on finding out what it was going to take to extend the water lines to the property.
Have I don't recall us having a subject to in past rezones. I mean,
Correct.
we either rezoned it or we
Correct.
either approved or we haven't. There hasn't been any of these except for this or subject to that.
Sure.
And to me, that's up to the developer to figure that stuff out. I mean, if they can do it. I just don't know if we should be.
I just don't think if we would approve a plat, that wouldn't
Right,
have
exactly.
water.
Right.
So it
So
doesn't
why-
matter what the zoning is if he comes
But why
with a
even,
plat.
why even throw it in there? That's my question. Because it's, to me, I don't see the reasoning to put it in there, and it's just more wording and verbiage that can,
David, I'm glad you're here
Trip us
tonight,
up.
because you're asking you a lot of questions.
because you're right, I mean, we wouldn't,
Yeah.
Commissioners, I'd like to state I'm glad to be here. Commissioner Denny brings up a good point. If I could offer a suggestion, possibly the motion could be amended to approve the plat as submitted, adopt the findings as submitted, with a recommendation that the board consider obtaining some more or additional information with respect to future water supply to that area. The board, that way, the recommendation would be to approve, but also recommend additional study with respect to future water supply. And that might address the issue.
I'll amend the motion to include those phrases. Phrases?
So you're removing the part about the water?
I think rather than make it contingent or conditional, basically a recommendation of additional study to the board.
So it's additional study for the water.
And that would allow the applicant to, prior to the Board of County Commissioners hearing this matter, obtain additional information.
All right, everybody understand the motion?
Yes.
And
Did
you
you
agree to
approve the
accept it
second?
and you agree to second? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So any further discussion?
When I read that application in the motion, and I read the staff report, to me, if they're gonna bring water to that area, it's, the staff report is probably correct, subject to extension of water lines. But the rural water won't give them water, or will give them water, and discussions have been in the way. I don't think there needs to be anything else added except what John had for his report, or for his motion to begin with.
Well, this is less confining than more confining. You know, it's-
Well, this just says subject to extension of water lines. That could be within the subdivision only.
Okay. Well, it could,
It
you
doesn't,
change it to study though, instead of
Study.
requiring it.
it doesn't
Subject
become an
to-
issue until it's put in to be platted.
Yeah. The plat will take care of it anyway.
Well, right now, they don't need water.
Right.
Yeah, until they plat it.
Well, when they plat it, it'll be answered regardless.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
That's
what we're-
So all we're changing is they suggested do a study on it. so.
I'm just trying to keep, the way I'm looking at it, I'm just trying to keep the rezone as simplistic as possible. And not throw all this other stuff in, like Wolf said, doesn't matter at this point in time. It doesn't, it only matters when you come into planning. At that time, yeah, it matters big time, right? But why convolute things? when
Why
you don't
muddy
have
the
to?
water?
Right, exactly.
Why muddy it?
Muddy the water.
You understand?
So that's just my opinion.
My only thought is, we're so close to comprehensive plan, let's wait for it, but I think it probably would go to 2.5 acre zoning anyway, so I don't know if waiting would make a difference,
Makes
because it
sense.
kind of makes sense in that area.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
I mean, we made everybody else wait. We made everybody else wait. Why not make them
and that, reflect that in your vote.
wait? I don't know.
Is there any other discussion?
A month ago. 155th.
Have,
That was a denial, it wasn't it wasn't a tabling, that was a denial.
that was total denial, yeah. We talked about tabling it to March, but we didn't, we denied it instead, so. right. And the county commissioners did override that, so they did approve it, so you guys probably need to know that's their thoughts on it, so why they did that, that'll be their decision, not mine, so. Anyway, any other discussion? And everybody stands to motion, to approve?
Now, I'd like to have the motion read back, if you would, please, so I
Okay.
can make sure I understand it.
Well, it's based on, I have to go to it. Staff recommendations, but changing, what number was that?
Last one, eight.
Last
Eight. Instead of subject applicant working with rural water, they want to do a study with rural water district number 7.
That's fine.
Right? Is that correct? I'm understanding right? Instead of working with, it's a study with rural water
Mr.
district.
Chairman, I think that is the interpretation.
Okay,
That's why I wanted to make sure that they'd be working with the rural water district.
right.
Is that directive and means they have to do it, or it's just a
They're
recommendation?
going to do a study, and
See if it's feasible.
they're going to do more than that if they actually going to do a plat anyways.
Yeah, that's.
Right, yeah. Okay. Anyway, Erica, now everybody understand the motion? A roll call vote. John Matthews.
Yes.
Terry Bukowski.
Yes.
Mark Danny. Yes. Alex DeMauro.
I think once again, we should follow what we've done in the past. Comprehensive plan currently says agriculture. And knowing everybody is fully aware of what's going on in the area, I think that all needs to be considered.
So your vote is?
My vote is no. And that is why.
Wolf Schmidt.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel.
Yes.
Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I'm going to vote yes. I think the comprehensive plan is going to do it anyway. This one is closer to not spot zoning in the one that we denied, but the county commissioners approved, so I voted yes on that, so it carried 8-1. The Board of County Commissioners considered this item on January 29th, 2020 at 9 a.m. Okay. This is, we're out of planning and zoning is adjourned.
Sir, you did not talk about DEV 19129.
It was tabled
It's table.
to February.
Okay, and we only need 7 members for, does anybody want to leave?
If you don't need
Whoever, we only need 7 members, or we only can have 7 members. We have 9 now.
How many do we need?
So 2 have to leave. 2 have to leave.
I'll leave. I'll just sit in the audience. I can sit in the audience, can't I?
Yeah, sure. Sure, you're not voting.
Just keep your comments to yourself.
Okay, still 2. Marky's 1, is Marky leaving? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're. Board of Zoning Appeals is now in order. We need to do a attendance. Jen Matthews.
Here.
Terry Burkowski.
Here.
Mark Denny is not. Alex is not, Alex is, yes, you're all present. Will Smith. Here. Rocky Hempel is not. Jeanette Holdeman.
Yes, here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
And I'm present. 7 members. Okay. Case number DEV-19-127, consideration application for a variance for Leavenworth County zoning and subdivision regulations under Article 5, Section 4, provides minimum parcel size of 5 acres, minimum frontage of 300 feet on a tract of land located east 200 feet of the south, 550 feet of the west, 800 feet, Section 28, Township 9 South, Range 22 East, and 6 p.m., Leavenworth County, Kansas, also known as 0000 Gillum Road, request submitted by Joe Herring. Does require a public hearing. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, this is case number DEV-19-127. This is a variance, as you stated, from the road frontage and the minimum lot size. This property was created by court order. It was created at 2.5 acres. It did not meet the zoning district at the time. It still does not meet the zoning district. However, if we go through the criteria for a variance, the variance requested arises from such a condition which is unique and which is not ordinarily found. Again, this was created by court order. It wasn't the property owner who did it. There was very little choice in the matter. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners or residents. Granting the variance will not negatively impact them. This is a rural residential zoning district. There are 1-acre lots directly to the south. Granting the variance will allow a single-family home to be built on a 2.5-acre parcel, which is very much in line with the zoning and subdivision regulations. The strict application of the provisions of the zoning regulations will constitute an unnecessary hardship. If the variance is not granted, this is a piece of property that cannot be built upon. The variance desired will not adversely affect the public health, safety, morals, or welfare. This will not negatively impact those things. Granting the variance desired will not be as opposed to the general spirit and intent of the zoning district regulations. Again, the zoning district is a rural residential zoning district. A 2.5-acre lot with a 1 single-family home on it is very much in line with the spirit and intent of the zoning and subdivision regulations. If you have any questions, I will certainly answer them. Otherwise, I believe Mr. Herring is still here and will answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, staff?
Yeah, I do. Instead of asking for a variance, can just ask for it to be reduced to R2?
So then I don't have the zoning map here. Would be talking potentially, that gets into spot zoning, a variance.
Spot zoning, yeah. Actually, he owns the property to the west, correct?
He does own the
Yeah.
property to the west.
Could combine those and do a boundary line.
He would
but
not be
Still
able to-
wouldn't match the 5-acre zoning. He could get the road frontage, but he couldn't get the zoning, correct? The lot still wouldn't be,
Well, if he combined the whole thing, it would be over 5 acres.
well,
However,
but he couldn't make 2 lots out of it, is what I'm trying to say.
correct, no, I don't believe that he can make
You
2
only can
lots
make
out of it.
one, right.
We've had extensive conversations with Mr. Herring regarding the potential options for this property, a variance being one of those. A variance seems more appropriate than rezoning the property.
All right, any other questions of staff? Upon opening the comment portion of this hearing, those that wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition will give your name and address. You can begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening again. Joe Herring, this time at 16630 Gilman Road. And Crystal said pretty much everything. I have a letter from David, their senior county counselor, Mr. David Paris, saying this is the process to take to make it permanent, so that's why I'm here. And I would love for you just to say, hey, rezone it 2.5 acres, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I am familiar with the underlying litigation that led to the creation of this lot, and I think you probably have the question, how could a non-conforming lot be created through a court order?
Yeah.
It's basically a settlement agreement drafted between 2 attorneys. I was not one of them, who didn't even bother to check to see what the zoning was on the tract, and quite frankly, probably were unconcerned as to whether or not it had any zoning regulations. That was the agreement they reached. I don't find that surprising.
Well, no, not in this world, no. I don't either.
Joe, have you considered joining that to your larger parcel as a solution? Or is this just the way you want to
It
go?
would still need, in my opinion, and our discussion, it wouldn't meet with the depth ratio. So
Yeah.
You wouldn't make the R5?
the ratio, no, it'd be R5, but the ratio wouldn't. It's too wide, not deep enough.
Oh, okay, I got it.
And have you could
You know-
make 2 tracks out of it and
As
have the
Crystal-
road frontage, but you wouldn't have the depth ratio on it, so.
As Crystal said, we
And it
talked
wouldn't be
about it
5 acres each, so,
extensively to try to figure it out, and this is the direction.
yeah. There's only one solution besides this, and just combine it as 1 track. It's still,
Okay, if this happens, is this a buildable lot for Joe then?
Yeah, a variance would
give
make
the
it
variance,
a
yeah, that's why the variance.
Variance.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Mr. Herring knows of a surveyor who could combine this for him or not, so that's another issue we have with combining.
Might have to find a good surveyor.
Might be hard.
Wanted over 2.5 acres.
All right. Anything else of Mr. Herring? Otherwise, we'll let him go so we can get on with it. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this request? Favor of this request? Now hear from any of those present wishing to speak in opposition to this request. In opposition? Is there any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
The public comment portion of this hearing is now over. Are there any questions or comments, commissioners? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the proposed variance outlined in case DEV 19-127 be approved, that findings on the golden factors and all the legal stuff that created this as set forth in the staff report and legal counsel as adopted by the Kansas Planning Commission as substantiated facts, testimony, and evidence presented be adopted by this board, and that the conditions set forth in the staff report be made part of this variance. Did I state that right?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve, and I want you to remind you that this does not go to the county commissioners. Our vote here is the end of it. We either approve it or we do not. It does not go any farther than that. So We have a motion on the floor with a second to approve case number DEV 19127, variance for Leavenworth County zoning regulations. Section 5, Article 5, Section 4, minimum parcel size from 5 acres with 300 feet of frontage to 2.5 acres with 200 feet of frontage. Is there any discussion? Not have a roll call vote. Members present, John Matthews.
Yes.
Gary Bukowski.
Yes.
Alex Tomorrow.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Yes.
Rocky Hempel is not. And Jeanette Holloman.
Yes.
Yes. Jeff Spink.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion carries 7-0.
Now he's happy.
Anything else?
I meant to introduce Jared Clements earlier today. He's our new planner, but I failed. But other than that, just Jared's on staff now. We're happy to have him. And
Welcome aboard.
that is it.
Adjourned.